Hey guys, welcome to the 43rd episode of the Learning Podcast. And if you aren't sure, it's a Singaporean podcast dedicated to learning something new from every single guest on this show. And today I have a friend which I sort of knew before but didn't really know. His name is Hao Yuan. Hao Yuan, thanks so much for taking the time to be on this podcast.
Thank you for taking some time to interview me too.
A little context about Hao Yuan. He studied materials engineering.
Yes, material science engineering.
Material science engineering, and I think the career progression that he has went is very interesting to me.
Yes.
The reason why I say that, right, is because to me, Hao Yuan has like a dream list of internships. He has worked in companies like Xiaomi for 1 whole year. He has worked in TikTok. He has worked in Amazon, AWS as well. So I feel that there's a lot of interesting experiences to learn from him. So if you're from a tertiary education, right, I think that this conversation will be helpful because he will be able to provide some insights onto how it is like working in such companies like TikTok, Xiaomi, and Amazon, because I think we learn a lot more from our internships compared to school in that sense. So I think that I'm in a sense, I'm envious on him. And I feel that people like him have maximized his time as an intern. And to be honest, right, I feel like I was a terrible intern back when I was in Xiaomi or like in my past companies, right? And when I look at his work, right, from an external point of view, right, because my first time meeting him, right, I know that he's really maximized it. He has even like met the CFO of Xiaomi in that sense. So I'm just like interested to just hear the kind of conversations that he had and how he really maximized his time in Beijing as well. So both of us actually went to China. We were both from the Overseas College Programme, NUS Overseas College Programme, whereby they send undergraduates to various parts of the world to intern. But right now it's a COVID period, so unfortunately, I think we are very lucky in that sense. Are we the last batch?
Second last batch actually. There's still one more batch before the COVID period hit. Then they were called back. Yeah. So unfortunately.
So I think that sucks. But I think on that note, right, maximizing the internship experience, whether it's from home or the little things that you can do, I think he is a master that we should learn from. And Hao Yuan is also an entrepreneur in his own way. He has also co-founded his own startup called Retrieve.co. Receive, yeah. Oh my gosh. Receive.co, and I think I'll just leave it more for him to explain. He is also currently doing business and partnerships, business development and partnerships in StashAway as well, and he just started as well. So I'm just interested to know his motivations on joining the company, because robo-advising, all that kind of stuff, I think is very new to me. So I'm not very familiar with it, so I'm very traditional in the sense whereby I just like buy stocks and index funds, and that's all I do. But I'm sure that you can provide your own insights as well. So that's a mouthful. A couple of reasons why you should listen to this podcast: maximizing your internships, entrepreneurship in your own way, balancing a full-time job and your entrepreneurship hustles. I think that's very exciting as well. So Hao Yuan, for those listeners who don't know who you are, could you give a quick introduction if I've missed anything important?
Okay, no worries. So I guess a lot of people has like on their minds is that why would a material science engineer such as myself actually venture into like the tech space? So I think most importantly first, right, is for each individual to find out like what they're passionate about first. So believe it or not, I actually did a materials engineering internship in the past too, where basically we did some fire material proofing and also ballistic engineering.
Wow.
So, but basically it was through the internship period, right? That was when I found out that actually I wasn't that passionate about material science, and that was when I also decided to pivot. And then NUS Overseas College Beijing program, where it exposed me to Xiaomi, actually made me realize that, the tech space is somewhere that I wanted to be in. And then from there on, through my other internship experience, that's where I try to navigate myself and try to find out what do I actually like to do. And I think for me, cause I took up more internships, right, it's really mainly because if I don't do so, then my engineering degree is going to be very useless, in my context. Yeah.
I feel that there are a lot of people out there, right? A lot of engineers specifically, because I also know a lot of chemical engineering friends, right? They regret the kind of courses they choose.
Exactly.
So on that note, right, how early do you decide? And for the fact that you wanted to make it happen, right, is something that I respect, because to be honest, right, marketing, business development, partnerships, right, itself is quite vague, and I feel that you really learn a lot on the job. And that's what you definitely did and expose yourself to. So if you to could you just share a little bit more of how you transition it? Were you talking to your friends and families I don't want to do engineering anymore? How early did you decide? And of course that's where you took advantage of NOC. But when did you really decide, and how did you convince yourself to make this switch?
Okay, so it actually happened all during my year 2 sem 2, towards the end. So I guess for me it was like a very dark period because like, I was learning something that I wasn't passionate about. I did an internship and I wasn't passionate about it. And then it just felt very upsetting and like I feel very constrained. And I think as most uni students know, right, like year 2, sem 2 is like probably too late to actually switch degrees too. Yeah, so I guess it was very like confusing for me as to what I should really do with my life. And then, but at that point in time, right, that was when the NOC offer actually came in. And I wanted to take advantage of that to actually try to pivot away from engineering. So when I saw like Xiaomi as like one of the list of companies that you could intern for, then that was something that I wanted to work towards. Yeah, and I think like through my experience at NOC, it further validated and reaffirmed me that like, hey, I actually really like tech, and it's something that I can see myself doing well in. And why I did like business development and whatnot, right? I guess to a certain extent it's more general. It's something that is easier to ease into as opposed to like an highly technical role such as engineering. But through those experiences, that's when I really find out that I actually like talking to people, meeting new people, doing like marketing activities, doing business development, trying to pitch that sales, and that's what I try to like dive deeper into. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Well, one step at a time, right? So, okay, diving to your time in Xiaomi, because you did product marketing, right? From my external point of view, right, because I wasn't involved in product marketing, right? I think a lot of business students, particularly, right, they are very interested in product marketing. They want to handle the launch of certain products and like handle how you really market certain products, right? For a 101 beginner, right, can you just like paint a picture to listeners out there? What is product marketing in Xiaomi?
Okay, so product marketing in Xiaomi is mainly trying to bring a product and then breaking it into easily understandable information to like our market segments. And maybe I'll just also explain the brief process of like how a project is being carried out. So from product planning to product training to creative planning. Then after that, that's where we will like start crafting out a keynote and then deliver the keynote in like various countries such as Thailand and Indo. Basically, through this process, we are always trying to find out like how do we communicate a value of like the product to the users, and how to communicate in such a way that our target segment actually understands it. So it can be like in the form of like like how do we tell users that 4000 milliampere battery is something that they want for their smartphone. And so we try to articulate that in like terms that they understand, terms that they can resonate with, and in essence, that's product marketing. Yeah.
Okay, just to ask a little bit more detail, right? Like when it comes to product planning, right? For me, right, one trouble that I've always faced when I was in Xiaomi, right, is like all phones, like to me, is like quite similar in that sense. So, like, what is the process, if you can share? What is the process within Xiaomi when it comes to deciding who the target demographic is, and how do you really like? How do you sell phones when they are all so similar in that sense?
Yeah, I think I did get this question a lot, like especially like when I was in Xiaomi. So I think in this very competitive landscape, right, what you need to really do is then understand your users. Sometimes the value, which might seem like very obvious to you, isn't so obvious to your target segment. So, for example, like through one of our like deep dives into our users, we actually found out that they really like the radio function, and that was something like a feature that they always looked out for in their smartphones. But if we didn't do our user research, we would never have known that.
So this is for specific markets, is it?
Yeah, this is for specific markets. So to your point where sometimes when all the phones are very similar, then what do you do? So it's about deep diving into the user, then trying to highlight various features that that they will like. And while most product are I guess designed similarly, but there's always like something that the product team will always also try to do, and it's also trying to articulate that. So I think the product team are also wary that the fact that their smartphones is probably very similar to our competitors, and that's where they'll try to make some tweaks and changes. And you also have to be able to identify those through the product spec sheet and communicate that in terms that your market segment will understand.
When it comes to user discovery, right, I'm not sure like how Xiaomi does it. Do you all like have like focus group with people, like ask them what kind of features do they like? Do you have like an agency that do it, or like how do you go about doing that kind of research?
Since we are at HQ, usually we'll give like a more general user research. So it can be through like research papers online about like the particular population, and then also through the community. So Xiaomi actually prides itself around its community, and that's where we really collect like a lot of feedback from our users and try to see what are some of the features that they like, and then we try to reciprocate that, like, hey, we know that you've been wanting large battery life from us, so this is something that we're going to deliver back to you through our new product. So that's something that we also do. Yeah.
So from your experience, do you work with the community team to like aggregate all these kind of responses, or just ask them for like a basic report, or like how's the process within the company like?
Yeah, so I guess this is where then we need to take the initiative to go ask them. Yeah, but usually during like product meetings, these are some of the things that they will raise and whatnot. Yeah, so initiatives and through meetings. Yeah.
Okay, so I know that you work under Vanessa, right?
Yes.
I would love to have Vanessa on the podcast one day, right? But in terms of what makes a good product manager, she's a product manager, right?
Product marketing manager.
What makes a good product marketing manager, in your opinion?
I think understanding your team members. So like what are their own goals, and also trying to understand where your employees are coming from. So I guess one thing which I really liked about Vanessa is that she really cares a lot about her team, and she really goes the extra mile for her team. So I think the rest of Xiaomi is aware, but she bakes a lot for our team especially, and then she also tries to listen to like what the team member has on their minds, and I think she's very receptive of like various feedback, and she also tries to continuously improve. To a large extent, I think most importantly, she has the growth mindset, and she tries to translate that to her work also. So she's someone that's very dedicated, someone that's very hardworking, and someone that is very caring. Yeah, and I think that's what makes a good product manager in general. Yeah.
During your time in Xiaomi, right, I assume that like any other internships, right, you will have some challenges along the way. Like,
yes.
what were the kind of challenges did you face, and maybe let's say how did Vanessa help you along this road as your boss in this case, or how did you overcome it in that sense? For anyone who is, let's say, going through an internship and let's say second guessing to themselves whether is this internship for me? Should I jump ship? Should I quit? All the kind of thoughts. What are the kind of challenges do you face?
So I think there was once where basically there was some form of like miscommunication with HQ and a particular country. Yeah, and then me being in that particular country, I had to communicate like back HQ's feedback to the team, but then the team had like some other ideas. So I think that put me quite in a tough spot because I was then sandwiched between like two teams. Yeah, and I think for me like that was very stressful, especially when I need to like kind of like manage expectations on both ends. And I think at that point in time I really like questioned like what am I doing so far, especially since I was just an intern. So like why were they expecting me to do so much lah? But I think how Vanessa did it eventually, where basically she stepped in and then she talked to the various stakeholders, and then like kind of like fizzle out the situation. That was something that, you know, made me realize that, hey, Vanessa is someone that I could rely on, and I guess reaffirm me that, you know, not everything is that bad, yeah, and there's always a way out, yeah. So basically what she did was like she came in, she talked to people, and basically managed everybody's expectations, and then from there on, then I could take the project and then continue moving forward instead of remaining sandwiched, yeah.
Were you based in a particular country?
Yes.
So could you like for listeners out there, right, I think the good thing about Xiaomi in that sense, like if you're in a product marketing team, right, you're like leading product launches. To me, it's something that's very exciting, right? You have all these kind of events, live events, right, in those countries whereby like me fans, right, will go to the place and like be crazy about it, like. So could you just tell me a story of like the product launches that you handled?
Okay, so mainly I help support like the Redmi line also. So the Redmi is like a smartphone that is more for budget-friendly phones lah. So basically where we also take like all the features that our community love and keep them in a very affordable pricing. So I'm more in charge of that product line. So one of the product launches that I actually did was the Redmi 6A, where it's like a very budget-friendly phone that was going to launch in Thailand also. So that was the country that I actually went down to support the keynote event. I think one quite heartwarming story like from there was that as I was going through the keynote, Then one of the reporters actually came out and then say, wow, this keynote is amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was like quite touched. But then at the same time, I had to continue with the keynote event. So prior to the keynote, there was like all those normal preparations. So for example, briefing the presenter what to say.
Who was the presenter in this case?
The country manager for Thailand.
Oh,
Yeah.
it wasn't Vanessa.
No, it wasn't Vanessa. Because he was the one who could like localize the keynote.
Aside from Thailand, did you manage like travel to any other product launches?
Unfortunately not. Yeah, given the timeline of like various products also. So like during my internship, like Redmi 6A kind of fall into my entire internship. Like the other products kind of overlap my internship experience. Yeah.
Got it. May I ask, right, in terms of like a product launch, right, does Xiaomi have any internal KPIs to say that this was a successful product launch? Like, is there any kind of like after action review to say that to see what could be done better and or like what improvements could be made? Because sometimes when you launch a product, then like the follow up or sustenance phase, right, is as important or probably even more important than the launch itself. Like, so what kind of like KPIs do product launches have in that sense?
For the KPIs, I'm actually not too sure. Yeah, but I think more of like communicating with the sales team, because that's where they have like more on the ground numbers, and then usually they'll then like feedback like their performance to us, and then we see how we can further optimize our marketing materials.
Got it. Okay, the next question I want to ask you, right, is like, how's your interaction with the CFO of Xiaomi? What's his name? Mr.
So Zichu, yeah.
So Zichu, right? Yeah. Like how did they go about? I'm just very interested to see like what kind of conversations they had, because to me, right, like he's a Singaporean. I think it's like a Singaporean pride, like Vanessa
exactly.
Be the head of marketing in Xiaomi, and him being the CFO of Xiaomi, right? Oh my god, like that is quite interesting, lah. So like, how did you initiate that? And how was talking to him? How's he in real life?
Yeah, so actually how this whole entire meeting went about, right, was because Vanessa actually know that I was kind of like a fanboy for him. I mean, like you said, like, I mean, it's a Singaporean, a global firm, and I guess I just wanted to understand more like where he was coming from, why he wanted to lead this role. And then that was where Vanessa actually like got a meeting with him and myself.
Wow.
And that was where we both like sat down and then just basically talk about very, very general things like why he chose to be the CFO of Xiaomi, why he chose China and whatnot. So at the end of the day, it's a very, very general meeting. I wouldn't say it's super underwhelming, but I mean, I was left in awe of like how a single Singaporean individual can lead a company. Yeah, and then he just shared like, he felt that there was a lot of potential in Xiaomi, and that's why he wanted to work on this.
Is he a nice person? Like, to me, right, sometimes all these kind of senior executives, right, because in my experience of interacting with like very senior executive level for certain startups or certain companies, right, sometimes they give a very intimidating vibes. So like, what kind, I'm just very interested to know that just the general vibes of like such a senior person, like could you share more details?
Yeah, actually, I would like to echo you. Like, yes, it was quite
like,
intimidating.
Were you, like, nervous going?
Yeah, I was definitely like super nervous. But I'll say, okay. So honestly speaking, I think his answers were very general. So it wasn't like too in depth or whatnot. But I can kind of see where he's coming from. Like, he has to be like sure that he doesn't say the wrong thing. So it's a very, very politically correct answers. Like to the questions that I prepared. And I guess. Yeah, so a little intimidating, but at the same time, like just very politically correct, like the experience. Yeah.
So going more from the macro perspective, right, in your whole 1 year internship with Xiaomi, right, and your and looking back at your experience in like working in Singapore, right, from your POV, because I also have my POV, but from your POV of what's the main difference between working in China companies compared to Singapore-based companies? Because sometimes like some of my friends tell me, actually, to be honest, Chinese companies, right, are like all over the place, very messy, there's a lot of politics. I mean, it's the same things that are common across like all companies, but from your experience, what is like the main differences between Chinese companies and perhaps Singapore-based companies?
Okay, so like I would like to give a disclaimer first. Like Vanessa's team is a bit more...
international.
Yeah, a bit more international, a bit more interesting. And I think the culture that she tries to bring into the company, right, or like her team in particular, right, is slightly different from other Chinese firms. So I wouldn't say that it's, the same across.
Just within the product marketing.
Yeah, just within product marketing in Xiaomi. I feel that the key difference between like any Singaporean internships that I had was probably the team. We are much closer. We go for like karaoke sessions together. We nerd out about like the various products all the time. And then we do like poke fun at each other. So I think to a large extent it's very family driven. So like where we really look out for one another. So I think there was like a lot of times where like if like let's say I was facing an issue with a particular problem, someone will actually take the initiative and step in and try to help. Yeah. So it's like kind of like where I didn't really need to ask for help, but people will actually come in and actively like check up on me and see if everything is being done alright. Yeah, but I think in general, right, like the people in a Chinese firm, I'll say they're very nationalistic, so they're very proud of their country. And I mean that's something that I respect, right? Like it's very rare where you see someone who is like so dedicated and loving to their own country. So I think that's probably another difference with regards to like a Singaporean firm. Besides that, I also say they're like more dedicated to work. I mean that's where like the 996 come from also, right? Like
for listeners, what is 996 to you actually?
So basically 996 is like the work culture where employees work from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. 6 days a week.
Oh,
yeah, which is I think something that is totally not common in Singapore, but actually do still occur in China like up to today. And it's more prevalent, I guess, in the tech firms, especially in the software development side and computer development side.
Got it. In terms of any advice you give, right, in the subsequent years after this COVID period is over, right, is there any advice would you give to someone, or let's say a NUS Overseas College student who's going to Beijing, right? What can they brace themselves for?
Definitely brush up on your Mandarin skills. Yeah, so and also at least try to be aware like what of the apps to use there. Yeah, so I believe you also have experience like using all the different apps.
It changes so fast.
Yeah, it changes so fast.
Using the different.
Yeah, so and also I guess appreciate like the traditions and cultures that they have there. So like don't go in like talking about your political ideas so freely. Try to understand the political sensitivity there. But otherwise, I think do have a open mind. Like actually, like I didn't know China had like a lot of nice places to travel to until I was there. So I think China is like really underrated to a certain extent.
On that note, right, what misconceptions do you think you had about China that was actually false? Because I think like traveling, China is seriously beautiful. Like there's so many places to go to, right?
So,
and at the same time, it's affordable. Like not like Europe, right? So what other misconceptions do you think that most people have about China, which you think aren't true?
So I guess in general, like a lot of people think that China is very polluted. Maybe a lot of like grey skies and whatnot. But I think like once they go to Guilin or Tianjin, then like it's totally different. Those places are really, really like beautiful. Once I was like in Tianjin and Guilin, right? Then after that was when I realized that wow, all these stereotypes are false lah. Like China is so much more beautiful than that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something I agree. A lot of Singaporeans I feel have that stereotype because I think the kind of conclusions or projections they have about China people, right, is that like of those that come over, which perhaps are like more northern. So I really think China is like the place to go, man.
Yes,
I just want to go back as soon as this COVID period is over, although like it came from there, right? Okay, so moving on, right, I'm just very interested in your time after you came back to Singapore, right? What was your plan after coming back to Singapore?
Okay, so definitely my plan at first was to continue my studies and like hurry finish my studies. But as I was at China, I actually started looking at like internship opportunities for summer. So like basically I want, cause like one mindset that I have, right, is to try and fill my time as much as possible, like to make full use of my time, and cause I just don't like the idea of like sitting idly and doing nothing. And,
I agree.
Yeah, and basically September time, I don't know if most graduates know, but it's like the intake periods for most tech firms, not just tech firms actually, banking firms also. So that was when I started looking out for summer internships and whatnot. And that's when I chanced upon Amazon Web Services internship, and I actually went for it. Yeah. So
okay, I know this is like a stupid question, right? But I have no idea about AWS, okay? Like for a very layman person, right? This is a stupid question, but I know like they handle a lot because they like handle a lot of data, a lot of servers. You can upload like so much files. You can remote control some computers here and there. So for very layman's definition, what do you do in Amazon Web Services?
Just a brief introduction of Amazon Web Services. So Amazon Web Services is a subsidiary of Amazon, and basically what they do is like they handle the computing aspect, the storage aspect, and basically the managing of the infrastructure aspect of most workloads. So what that means is that, for example, do you know Dropbox?
Yes.
So basically, Dropbox is known as like a cloud storage service, right? So, but then when you store something online, it has to go to like a hard disk, right? And basically, Amazon Web Services manages the underlying infrastructure. So they're the one that actually keeps the
Hard disk.
keeps the hard disk
Servers.
and actually stores the information. But basically, Dropbox is more like an interface between like Amazon Web Services and the users. Yeah.
So when it comes to your role, right, in such like to me, like when people talk about Amazon Web Services, it's like software coders and everything, right? Where does your role fit into this company?
Yeah, so I guess it's a bit similar like to product marketing, just that now there's a KPI attached to it.
Oh, okay. What's the KPI?
So basically, I try to articulate the value of like our products to users such as yourself, and then try to sell you the product.
So was it like a sales job?
Yeah, basically I was a sales associate in Amazon Web Services, and I think besides that, like besides meeting customers to get them to use Amazon Web Services, some of the things I did was also like territory analysis and whatnot. Yeah.
Sorry. What's territory analysis?
So territory analysis is like trying to identify like key market segments that salespeople can potentially venture into, to identify like new leads and whatnot. So instead of like plunging into the ocean and then trying to find like customers, a more strategic approach would be to like study a particular territory and then identifying like key aspects to
Finding the
work
people
into.
which has the highest possibility to use AWS.
Exactly. So for example, a territory can be like startups. So how do we approach this particular startups territory? Then we try to identify some of the like common characteristics. Then we try to go pitch in that direction. Yeah.
In terms of territory analysis, right? Like, was it your boss that told you, okay, go to startups and just try and sell to them, go to enterprises, try and sell to them, or like, how's the strategy like in Amazon? If you may just share in terms of making people adopt this product.
Okay, so it was more of like, we want to do a general Singapore study, and then we want to segment it in such a way so that, cause in Singapore, like we already have like enterprise account managers, we already have startup account managers, and then we also already have like SME account managers. So when the project was like passed to me, it was more of like identifying new leads within each segment and each territory. So it was more of like, this is the entire Accra, Singapore registered companies list.
It's publicly available, right?
Yeah, it's publicly available. Okay. And then go study it and then see if like there's any companies that we have yet to reach out to. Yeah.
Wow. So is it like more of a cold outreach thing, calling?
Majority of my time was basically then spent like trying to segment all these companies. And then after that, yes, we do a call up with them. Yeah.
Because the skill of analyzing and the skill of calling is very different. So it's both in one.
I'll say like probably 90% of my time was spent analyzing, then 10% of the time like on calling. Yeah.
I feel like another stupid question, but who are the biggest competitors of AWS? Is it Alibaba Cloud, Dropbox?
Okay, yeah, so Alibaba Cloud is actually one of our biggest competitors. But I think the largest competitor is both Microsoft Azure and Google Cloud. Yeah.
Sales 101, because I know that I feel that the skill of sales, right, is like very invaluable. It's very good to have. So how do you sell? Like what's your approach to selling to, and what do you think makes a good salesperson? Like at this kind of enterprise level, I think like the stakes are quite high, and you will be able to do very well for yourself if you're good at it, right?
Yeah. Okay, so I think a lot of the account managers are very people-centric people. So basically, they are able to strike conversations easily with like anybody on the street. Yeah, so it's someone that they can easily connect with on a superficial level, and I think that's probably a very important skill set, which I'm still trying to take out also. So number one, being able to talk, being able to articulate like value of your product is, I guess, the baseline. And then a higher level would be to align your value and their value, like at least into the same spectrum. So what that means is that, given a scenario, for example, you're the digital and innovation lead for a particular company. Then after that, you being like from Amazon Web Services, if you introduce if they introduce more cloud products into their company, then it'll be like a digital innovation growth, right? Yeah, so you try to align those KPI to your own KPI, and you try to bring that conversation in that particular direction. So, for example, a bank wants to adopt more cloud storage, to say that they digitize and whatnot. Then what a AWS salesperson can potentially do is come in and then say, hey, we have all these cloud storage options. We can support you in such a way to quickly deploy it and then hit your KPI by the end of this quarter. Why not try out AWS?
It's like you need it to be a win-win situation for both
Yeah,
parties.
and you kind of need to know like what are their KPI and what they're looking out for.
So in terms of KPI, right, like would you mind sharing what are the kind of internal KPIs? Is there like a fixed number of new clients that AWS should have every month, and like how do they even come about to creating these projections? Or is it just an arbitrary number that's just thrown down and okay, I want to get 200 clients? How is it like?
So in general, I guess not just in Singapore but across like the APAC region, they have a number to work towards like for each particular segment. I think it's much simpler on the enterprise segment side because there's only that many enterprises, but it's more of like the startups where basically, okay, let's say they identified 1,000 startups, and then we currently have 260 startups, for example. Then probably there's a 740 gap that we need to work towards. And basically, on the very basic level, we have to make sure that we are at 1,000. And then after that, on the secondary level is to then look at their usage. So for example, this company is only using like 20% of their services on cloud. There's another 80% which they're using on like, let's say, cloud storage, like servers, offline servers, and basically on-prem servers.
On-prem?
Okay, on-prem is like on-premises like compute hardware and whatnot. Yeah, so for example, like the ideal startup would be that all their services are online, and then they have no on-prem servers.
Oh, okay, so that's the ideal.
Yeah, that's the ideal state that we
ideal
want.
vision that you want to pitch to them, and you need this because you don't want to put so much servers.
Yeah,
in your
then
rooms.
from there, then we can say yes, we completely secured like this particular segment. Yeah.
One last question about this, right? To me, in my very superficial experience of working like sales organizations, right? I think I worked in like sales job for 2 weeks. Right? It's very like cutthroat in that sense, right? So I'm not sure how much you can share as well. Like what is the culture of salespeople, sales associates, right, within Amazon? Like, are they like, oi, you're getting a better lead than me, or you're given a better pool of leads in the first place, and I'm getting like a lousier lead, and that's going to affect my performance. Like just in a very vague detail, how is the culture of sales in Amazon?
Yeah, I think actually like the stereotype against sales, right? I think most of it is actually not true.
Like, what are the stereotypes?
So I'll say at the end of the day, right? At least through my experience at Amazon Web Services, like the people are very bright. They're very like I mentioned, also like very people centric. So basically, they do care and look out for one another. And I wouldn't say it's like super cutthroat, but more of like just being very direct and honest with like what's happening on the ground. So
the numbers speak for itself.
Yeah, basically the numbers do speak for itself, and I guess the sales people at Amazon Web Services are more of like problem solvers instead of like just sitting around and talking about like the problem itself. Yeah, so I guess for the salespeople in Amazon Web Services, they are very, very bright, very, very smart. And I don't think it's that cutthroat, yeah, but more of like just being direct and communicating with one another, yeah.
From your experience, right, is there any big differences between AWS and Xiaomi? Like just from a very superficial point of view, like were there any big differences between both companies? That because like you are very interested in tech, right? That's the whole reason you go into NUS first place. Like Amazon is like wow, like AWS is like, if I'm not wrong, it provides like quite a significant portion to the sales of Amazon as a whole, right? Then Xiaomi is also another like billion-dollar organization, right? But from your experience of having been in these two like billion-dollar companies, right? Just from a very superficial point of view, like what was the key difference do you see? Like AWS, right, is like a stereotype is like it's an American company. Yes. Xiaomi is a Chinese company. What was your experience and difference between these two companies?
Okay, so I guess the first key difference is like you mentioned, like one is an American company, then the other is a Chinese company. So the values that top management, it will trickle down, and basically
as in for American companies.
For American companies. So like in Amazon, there's like the leadership principles by Jeff Bezos, which is something that they.
What's that? Can you share?
Okay, sorry.
What is that? The leadership principles by Jeff Bezos.
So it's basically like a set of principles that Jeff Bezos wants, like basically the employees to follow and to inculcate into like their day-to-day life. Whereas like maybe in Xiaomi is
more startup-ish. It's up to
it's more of a startup-ish, exactly.
Organize them.
Yeah, and I'll say that because Amazon has been around for a much longer period of time, that they have like better experience in managing, like basically an entire company. Yeah. Whereas like I think while I was still there, Xiaomi only had like 9 years or 10 years since it started. Yeah, so in terms of experience, I'll say Amazon is already closer to an enterprise. Yeah.
If I were to move on, right, after I know like going through one internships at one time, right? Then after that, do you go to TikTok?
Yes, I went over to TikTok as a user operations.
Could you share with listeners what do you do at TikTok?
Okay, so at TikTok, again, it's a very people-centric role. Okay. So where basically I talk to like a lot of like the content creators and basically work on like key content verticals that we want to develop. Yeah. So for example, in Singapore, we want to have like more pet creators. We want to have more motivational creators such as yourself. Yeah. Then
pet creators, is it?
Yeah, pet creators. Okay. And also like sports creators. So these are like some of the content creators that I'll reach out to, and then try to get them to post more onto TikTok so that to further diversify the content on our platform. Yeah. So I guess it's still in the same spectrum as my previous role, just that it's a different type of
people to do it.
Yeah, people to do, yeah.
I know it's like a repetitive question, but
no worries.
But some like Chinese companies. TikTok honestly has been around not too long ago.
Yes.
So I was just wondering, like you talked about Amazon having more structure systems because for the fact that it's been in place for a long while, right? For my experience, I'm just telling you, I feel that Chinese companies are quite messy in a sense, not to be direct, but how's not to badmouth TikTok or whatever, but just from your experience of interning in the company, because I know TikTok is like hiring damn fast. How's working in TikTok like? Is it like a very Chinese company in the sense where, because when you work in Xiaomi, it's also a bit weird because you were under a Singaporean boss, whereas in TikTok, like is it true that like all the upper management are all from China? Like
okay, so yeah, that's completely not true.
Oh, not true. Okay.
I'll say to a large extent, TikTok is more globalized. So basically, we do see like people from different countries taking up top management, and I'll say like usually the different country managers are from that locality. So we do see a lot of localization in our different markets, and I think probably the key difference between like TikTok and Xiaomi, right, is that TikTok is like quicker to adopt like technology changes. So for example, like using like the latest SaaS software or like the latest CRM platform, or like having their own internal like dashboarding tools and whatnot, is something that they adopt more readily as opposed to Xiaomi. Yeah.
Xiaomi, you would say, is more like it's very slow compared to TikTok. And more because Xiaomi is just doing phones.
Yeah.
But TikTok is like a like a platform that's trends
Correct,
and
correct,
everything.
correct. But I won't say that Xiaomi is like slow to adopt, but it's more of like different priorities. Because I mean, at the end of the day, TikTok is like a tech firm. I'll say more of like a internet business, whereas Xiaomi is more of like a distribution business, where basically they're trying to get smartphones to consumers. So I guess like for them, they don't have to have like all this, adopt all this like new technology, whereas Xiaomi is more TikTok is more relevant. Yeah.
On a day-to-day basis, right? Going back to the same questions, right? What challenges do you face in TikTok? Like in terms of finding new creators to really be onboarded? Because I think it's also weird.
Okay,
In a
yeah.
sense, I feel like you're also doing community management. You need to like incentivize
Yeah.
creators to create and at the same time help them along the journey. So what unique challenges do you face at TikTok that was different from the other companies that you worked at?
Okay, I wouldn't say it's completely different from the other companies, but I think it was the period where I was in TikTok. So, in case you're unaware, but basically I joined TikTok during the COVID-19 period. So it was a completely remote internship experience.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you can share
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, right, it was a period where basically a lot of people were started using TikTok. So we saw like immense growth, and then the projections, I guess, was also quite crazy. Cause like everybody expected COVID growth to continue. Yeah, that was a difficulty, like basically trying to match those expectations.
So there was those KPIs that also.
Yeah, there was.
Like we expected by the end of this month, we expect to grow like 200% or 300%.
Yeah, but it's like not possible because like I mean those were based on COVID-19 numbers also.
So it did eventually slow down.
Yes.
So the pressure to really like keep up with the numbers perhaps can drive some people crazy like that.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess it's very inflated also. Yeah.
Oh, what do you mean it's inflated? Oh my gosh.
So for example, like we have to like reach out more to like this particular vertical of creators, but then I mean in Singapore like there's only that many that you can reach out to.
True. It's
So
a very small place.
and then I think by the time you reach out to all of it, you like basically that's all.
Yeah.
Like that, like the only way to reach out to more creators is to create more creators.
Yes.
Yeah, so
That's an entirely different strategy.
yeah, and that's the landscape lah. So I guess the focus was a bit off, but I think towards my end of the internship, I think they do acknowledge that, and then they are quick to change like the approach. Yeah.
Got it. In terms of any advice you give to someone who's, let's say, going to an internship at TikTok, is there any kind of things that you wish you knew before you entered?
On a very basic level, definitely understand like the platform, understand what TikTok is. Cause there are some people who don't even know like what's the interface on TikTok. When they apply, and I think just try to appreciate the product first, and then try to understand like some of the cultures that stem from TikTok. Yeah. So and then like maybe know like what are some of the trends that started out from TikTok. And then I think also understand like from a business standpoint like what TikTok is. Like understanding that at the end of the day it's still a ads platform. Like basically they do earn a lot of money from ads revenue. Yeah. So I think being able to appreciate like these two aspects before going into the internship, right, will be a bit helpful. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, moving on to the last segment, right? I'm very fascinated by your involvement in, let's say, co-founding a startup with your friends, right? Could you share more about how this came about and what is Retrieve?
Receive.
Receive.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah.
Receive.co. Okay. How do you get into it?
Okay, so from NOC Beijing, right? Like basically we have the VIP, the Innovation Practicum module, where basically they encourage us to like pitch startup ideas that we potentially have, and then like if it goes through, then they'll fund us like $10,000. So that's actually where the idea was born, but not from my team, but from my friend's team. And then basically they got the grant, and then we further validated like this particular idea with through hackathons. And then like when we realized that maybe it's an idea that will work, and then we then decided to venture into it. Yeah. So for those people not familiar, but Receive is a platform that connects like participants and researchers.
So it's in a sense collecting data for researchers to use in a more accessible manner compared to other means.
No, so for example, if like let's say a researcher has like a study that he needs participants to participate in, what they can potentially do is they can post it onto a platform, and then after that, a participant can then go through our bot to actually join the particular research study. So how we're different from like other means is that we only show participants the research studies that they are eligible for. So this will make like the entire onboarding process like more seamless and efficient. So if you're not familiar, like currently how researchers source for participants, right, it's really through like email marketing.
Very traditional means.
Yeah, very traditional means,
NUS,
exactly.
They put Beijing
Yeah,
also.
they put like posters or like they do a WhatsApp blast or Telegram blast. So I guess what this really entails is that like a very cluttered experience. One where you have to like go through like a lot of messages to see like if you qualify for that, and then even if you apply for it, you sometimes might not qualify for it. And then further down the user journey, there's also a lot of like other problems such as like not meeting the eligibility criteria, or like basically the person not following up with you and whatnot. So there isn't a single channel or streamlined process to manage basically your studies that as a participant and even as a researcher. Yeah, so that's where we form Receive so that we can sieve all these research studies for the participants. Yeah.
So is it like a web interface? Is it more of like a web interface which follows out from like start to finish, or is it like more of just a community where researchers can just reach out to people?
Yeah. So basically for participants, we are a Telegram bot which they can interact with. So basically from there they can then see like what are the studies that is currently available and they're eligible for. And for researchers, we are more of like a CRM platform. Like you mentioned, it's a web interface where basically researchers can manage their research studies. Yeah.
So what is your role in it? Are you like the guy doing the coding, the Python, the coding and everything?
So I guess on my end, I'm more of the business development side also. So basically like and more for participants. So like trying to find out ways of getting more user signups, getting more people to use our platform, and also like maybe interacting with like the participants to see like how we can further improve ourselves.
Cool. Yeah. I think it's quite a cool initiative.
Yeah.
Like how big is the team?
Currently we are 5, a team of 5 with 3 part-time interns. Yeah.
Okay. So like because you're also currently working as a full-time employee.
Yes.
So are you like more of like a are there full-time people in it? Or it's mainly like a joint initiative after hours essentially?
I guess it's more of like a joint initiative after hours, because I think that's something that we all align for before venturing into this. But otherwise, it's still one of our key priorities to like get things started. But I guess like sometimes it's okay to not rush things, because products need time to develop, and I guess we're going through that approach. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I think developing it from start to finish, I'm sure you have some very strong people to be able to develop.
Yes, exactly. We have 2 co-founding developers who are like just helming the front end and back end like, all the way.
Front end and back end.
Yeah.
Okay, we got it. Okay, Hao Yuan, thanks so much for sharing everything. I think this conversation has really shared a lot of your experience in so many of these like dream internship companies. In a sense, I think hopefully it'll be useful to someone out there, right? In terms of the last few questions, right, I always ask, right, what's the best advice have you ever received thus far?
I guess just keep trying. Like I think a lot of people are like just afraid to try. And then like let's say if it's an internship at Amazon Web Services, right? Just try applying first.
Don't tell yourself the story of
don't tell yourself like you're unprepared or you're whatnot. Or even if it's a startup, just try like at least try to get started in something. Yeah. So that's probably like the only advice I'll give. Yeah.
What's the worst advice have you received?
Okay, so I guess it kind of links back to the first one also. So like the idea of like you can do anything that you want. Yeah. So I guess when you try something, at least try with a plan. Yeah. Okay. So don't go in like blindfolded either. Yeah. And sure, you can kind of do anything you want, but I mean,
why not follow in the footsteps of someone who has already done it, someone who is more experienced?
Exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Okay, 1 year from now, what would be the best tangible things that will need to happen that will make it the best year for your life so far?
Okay, so basically, I guess being in my dream company, which is has to be like a tech firm doing payments.
Okay.
And then-
I'll ask you about it also.
Yeah, then and also probably closing our third or fourth deal on receive already. Yeah, with a research company.
Got it. If I may just add on one more, right? Right now you have just began your journey in working in StashAway.
Yes.
Right? Could you just very shortly, right, share a story
Yeah.
of how you got in there in the first place and why payments?
Okay, so StashAway is like a wealth management platform. Basically, they are robo-advisory that helps you invest. So it's really put into the platform and then forget. And basically, I was interested in StashAway mainly because I'm a user myself. And then I felt like what they were doing with the product, they got like everything right from the start. So basically, like through their investment decisions and through like the UI, UX and user experience, I just felt they know what they're doing. And then I guess that was what got me interested in using the platform. And then ultimately like working at the company because I think compared to like a lot of other startups, they're very strategic in terms of like the way they venture into like new product launches and whatnot. And basically they're very mindful of like what's happening around them. So that was something that I really, really appreciate. So for example, like their investment decisions and their portfolios follows like a particular framework, which I kind of believe in. And and I think since it aligns with my values and since what they're doing is something that I can appreciate, and that's why it's something that I wanted to go into also. Yeah.
For another stupid question, right? For like let's say I want to put my money in StashAway, right? So I've briefly heard it from my friends. Is there like how does the onboarding process for a new StashAway user is? Is it like I'm telling you my risk appetite, or is it like okay, I want 300% every year? That kind of stupid statements lah. But like is it based on risk profile? How do you first onboard a StashAway customer for like listeners who have no idea about investing?
Okay, so StashAway, for the onboarding, right? For us, we are more towards the goal-based type of investing. So, for example, we'll ask you like, what do you want to achieve by the end of 10 years or 15 years? And then from there, then we do the necessary projections to help you get there. Then after that, then we'll assess your risk appetite and whatnot. Yeah, so we'll recommend like a risk value, like risk percentage. And then from there, you can also tweak it further. And then by tweaking the risk percentage, then you can change the portfolio accordingly. Yeah.
Do you have manual control over the kind of assets to invest to, or you leave it really to the robo advisor or algorithm to really like suit that risk appetite? So let's say I can't like I want 50% bonds and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, so yes, you can't choose like what exactly goes into your portfolio, but this really stems from the belief that we don't want to over manage your portfolio, and that's why we strictly follow like the ERAA framework, basically allocating based on the economic cycles and based on like the economic environment, based on like market volatility and whatnot. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So is it like a financial advisor kind of stuff whereby I set out an appointment and talk with a financial advisor like, okay, within 10 years, I hope to have my portfolio grow by 20%. My risk appetite is like, do whatever you want, that kind of stuff. Like, it makes sense that if you want a higher return, the risk will be higher as well. So is it like a financial advisor situation, or is it like a call thing, or is it an online application, or how is it?
Also, we are mostly on the app itself, like basically, and while we do fulfill like some of the roles that a financial advisor does, I guess it's less personalized as opposed to like a financial advisor lah. But I guess our key difference would be then the cost. So we actually charge a very, very low fee on the assets that we manage, and but at the same time we try to bring like the customization and then also like the advice similar to what a financial advisor will give you, but at a much lower cost. So I guess what we are really trying to do, right, is like lowering the barrier of entry towards like financial planning, or like working towards your financial goals. Yeah. So we feel that financial knowledge should be accessible, and that's something that we pride ourselves with. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been checking out the Facebook ads that you guys are running. I think it's the founder or one of the very senior people that are like sharing their market updates and as well. So from a very brief look, I think it's like quite cool is the company is doing something different from like other traditional firms lah. So okay, thanks so much for coming on this
thank you
podcast.
so much, Shu.
I really learned a lot about like the different industries, and me being in the agency world, I get a chance to work with a lot of different companies as well. But it's really different to hear from your point of view working in those companies as well. So thanks so much for joining this
thank
podcast.
you so much too. Yeah.
And do you have any last words for Joey?
Love you, babe.
Hey, so for context listeners, right? Joey is Hao Yuan's girlfriend, so she's actually sitting behind and listening to this. So thanks so much, guys, for coming, and she actually bought McDonald's for us. We are not sponsored by McDonald's, but yes, thanks so much, man, and hope to see you soon. Let's do this sometime, and hopefully have Joey join the next podcast together instead of just being an observer, right? Okay, thanks so much.